I test a lot of graphics cards here on the channel, and a dedicated testing machine for these is very convenient. And I found out the hard way when I saw my 5600G test bench, and I decided to use my main PC for all of my graphics card benchmarking, and it only lasted for one video, and this is why I've built a brand new test bench. You might recall that my 5600G test bench was slightly underperforming when I was testing more powerful GPUs. This is never good as it can skew my data. However, this wasn't the biggest issue in the world because the games where the GPUs were being held back, they were getting really high frame rates anyway, so it wasn't that much of a problem. Another issue with the 5600G is it only supports PCIe Gen 3 at most. If I wanted to test like an Intel Arc card for instance, I couldn't get the most out of it because PCIe Gen 3 doesn't support resizable bar. Resizable bar is a very important setting for Intel Arc cards as they will gain a lot of performance with it enabled, and an Intel Arc card is something I definitely want to test here on the channel, but with my new test bench that is possible. And arguably the biggest issue I had with it, which I'm not sure if it was actually an issue with the old test bench, was the RAM incompatibilities. My 32GB kit of Corsair Dominator just hated that test bench for whatever reason, but I'm not sure if it was down to that Asus motherboard, but more on that in a bit. All of this led to me selling my old test bench and me trying to actually use my main system for benchmarking graphics cards, and it only lasted for the 2060 Super video. This is because my main system just doesn't like new graphics cards for whatever reason. It will boot with a new graphics card in, but it won't display out an image for whatever reason. I don't know what that's down to. Maybe an incompatibility with the integrated graphics on my 13700K perhaps. And at this point I said, enough is enough. I'm going to build a brand new test bench because I just want the convenience of it and I just want to get out the GPU content. So to start off with, I went with the Intel Core i5-12400F. This 6-core 12-thread Intel CPU is built on the Alder Lake architecture, and it's a very good mid-range i5. I specifically went with the F SKU because I didn't want an integrated GPU in there because that can cause conflicts with normal dedicated GPUs. And it's a GPU test bench. I don't want integrated graphics on it. It's just another thing to install drivers for, another thing that could potentially go wrong and cause problems. Thanks to Alder Lake's DDR4 and DDR5 support, I've got a lot of choices open to me here, and I went with this B660-A Pro MSI motherboard. This one has DDR4 memory, and I picked it up used for just £85. I believe it was open box actually, but there was one problem with it. The chipset heatsink only had one pin in it, so the cooler was kind of like off on the chipset, which is not good, but this is an easy fix, and I fixed it with a pin from this Gigabyte motherboard. Full disclosure, this was fully listed in the eBay listing, so I wasn't cheated out of a motherboard or anything like that. It was just a little fix that I had to do. It also came with all of the accessories as well, so the IO shield, the SATA cables, which I won't be using because I'm using NVMe drives, and it also came with the Wi-Fi antennas as well, which is great so I don't have to trail an Ethernet cable along my room. These are the two new components as everything else is staying the same. So I'm keeping the 32GB of Corsair Dominator memory, which I might actually be changing out very soon because I think it does have a few problems, but more on that in a bit. And I've kept the Corsair power supply as well because it's enough for the GPUs that I'm testing right now. If I needed to move on to more powerful GPUs, I'll upgrade it as of when I need to. For the boot drive, I have this 512GB ADATA XPG drive, and this is what the OS is going to be loaded onto, and a couple of games. For the bulk of the games, I'm using the Sabrent 1TB Gen 3 SSD, and this will be very convenient for when I've got another machine because I'll just plop that in there and I don't have to re-download games, so that is very convenient. All of these specs will be listed down below in the description with Amazon affiliate links, so if you want to pick any of them up, you can do. So it's good to have a test bench again. I'm very glad that I built one, but there are a few issues with this one, mainly to do with the memory. It's just giving me random weird issues, and I did think this was down to my Asus board, so I am sorry that I went on a bit of a rant on Twitter saying that your boards suck. I don't think your board was causing the booting issues with this memory. I think it's down to Corsair's Dominator memory, which is actually quite surprising because Corsair Dominator DIMMs are supposed to be very good, but turns out that these ones are a bit dodgy, so yeah, I'm sorry, Asus. One thing I do want to change is the cooler. It's a bit whiny and a bit annoying, but it's keeping the i5 12400F at around 70 odd degrees C in Cinebench, which is no problem at all. And this power supply could do with being a 850 watt power supply ideally, but for the GPUs that I've tested here on the channel, 650 watts has been enough. So overall, I'm pretty happy with this test bench. I just think I need some new RAM for it. So in typical Pro Yam Yam PC fashion, this PC build hasn't been the smoothest, but the issues that I'm facing aren't very major issues. The RAM's the biggest one that I can think of, and even then it will boot after a while of just changing the DIMMs around, so it's not that much of a problem, it's just very annoying. However, if you're watching this and you're a company and you want to send out 32 gigabytes of 3200 megahertz DDR4 memory for a collaboration or a sponsorship, you're more than welcome to. I'll be happy to accept that. But with that being said, it's very great to have a test bench again. I was going to hold off if it wasn't for my main system just not liking new GPUs for whatever reason, and it's probably a good idea that I did get one anyway, because I don't want to be changing out hardware on my main editing PC, because for a workstation PC, you want to keep the hardware pretty much the same throughout its life cycle, maybe do a couple of upgrades here and there. I want to keep this thing basically as it is, just for stability reasons. So now with this test bench being built, more GPU content will be coming out more frequently now, because it's just so much easier to test graphics cards on this machine. It's very convenient, which means that I can roll out more GPU content at a higher quality. So I win, you win, everybody's a winner. So if you want to stick around for more GPU testing content, make sure you stay subscribed and hit that notification bell. And if you like this video, leave it a like, and I'll catch you in the next one.